Okay, everyone, it's we're pulling on to 10:06, so we'll go ahead and get started this morning. That way we can try and make our way through. Like I said, I don't think we'll take the full 2 hours. We might, but we'll see what happens. Before we begin, I do want to note that the City of Houston provides code training as an ICC preferred provider. This 2015 IBC Houston Amendments webinar is currently approved through the ICC preferred provider program. Um, ICC requires all attendees to be present in class for 92% of the length of class to qualify for CEUs. This class will be recorded in Teams, allowing for an archive record of the event and for confirming the time each person attended the event. Due to our more complete review of the Houston amendments over this two-part course, we will be requesting an update to the CEUs provided in parts 1 and part 2 to make sure that they're accurate and that everyone gets the CEUs for the time spent in the class. All right, so we left off, I believe Howard left off right here, 1504.8. We are in chapter 15, dealing with roof assemblies and rooftop structures. So there's really no major change in this amendment, no change to the technical requirements. So we'll move on. Table 1505.1. So there was a minor change in this table. We previously had stricken all of the footnotes down below. We no longer are doing that with footnote A and footnote B. Justification behind with A is that just because the International Wildlife Urban Interface Code is a part of this, it doesn't mean that we have to require or it's not adopted by the specific code. Let's see. So some change significance for the base code, model code. This looks like it's pulled from the ICC significant changes. This just talks about how the code designates the use of any particular classification of roof coverings based on the type of construction of the building. Minimum Class B roof covering is required for all roofs that have a minimum 1-hour fire resistance rating in accordance with 602. It goes on to talk about the skylights and slope glazing are considered individual assemblies, and it gives the requirements for those particular applications for section 2610. Moving right along, 1511.1. Let's see. So some minor ICC changes to the text with renumbering, but there's no changes to our Houston Amendment. The intent behind our Houston Amendment for this remains the same. And this is just to ensure structural and life safety, and this particular exception here could potentially block drainage and result in a roof collapse. Okay, 1511.7, no change to this Houston Amendment other than it was renumbered to correlate with the moving sections in the 2015 IBC. We have this amendment just to maintain conformity with our local policies here where wood shakes and shingles are not permitted. Okay, moving on into chapter 16, structural design. Let's see, we have some base code changes here, mainly dealing with flexible diaphragms and rigid diaphragms. We won't go into too much into this since we're really only covering our Houston amendments. Okay, we'll get down here to 1603.1.7. This is a flood design data section. Of course, I'm sure all of you have heard it throughout the rest of the sections of the code. Anytime it references the flood, we always refer over to chapter 19, and now we have the new here in green, the new reference to the IDM. We also delete and replace the entirety of 1603 with this. This is just to conform with our local policies and ordinances that we have that, dictate flood design. Okay, keep moving down. I have some more base code changes. Again, we're really not going to cover that. We're looking for our amendments that we can discuss. All right, 1609.1.1, determination of wind loads. Okay. So I think Howard probably would have covered it because I think there's some reference to it earlier on in our Houston amendments. But the wind loads and the sections for the wind loads have been altered slightly. What you're going to see is the figures that are referenced in the base code. We actually strike those, and here specifically in 1609.3. We refer you to this website, which is, and I checked it this morning because it was previously windspeed at council.org and recently changed. I wanted to make sure that it didn't change again and that it is indeed still this, but it is hazards.out@council.org. When you visit this website, all you'll do is put in your address, and it will give you the wind speeds and requirements for ASCE 7, the different years, and what your risk category is. So essentially, all this is to say that these sections have been reworked slightly to put everything at that web address for you to find what your wind speeds are. So instead of trying to use a figure with a little map where you have to try and figure out where exactly it is, where you fall into that wind speed category, and there's a thick black line that probably is going to go over your county or your area or whatever. Conveniently enough, there's this web address now that we can use. So keep going further, 1609.3.1, same thing. We're referring, giving the references to ASC 7 and the Hazards at Council website for you to get your wind speed requirements. Okay. Section 16.12, flood loads, same as above. We strike these, reserve these sections, and refer you to Chapter 19 of the City Code and the IDM. Okay. 1613.3.5, no change here between the 2012 and the 2015. So keep moving. All right, 1613.6. Now this is a new section, I believe, to the 2015 that deals with ballasted photovoltaic panel systems. We include this Houston amendment. That way we maintain, with our local policies and ordinances, that basically states that these ballasted roof-mounted photovoltaic panel systems shall not be installed on roofs within Houston, and that all roof-mounted photovoltaic panel systems shall conform to Section 1510.7. Okay. Move on down here, we have in Chapter 17, the Special Inspections and Tests chapter, we have a new Houston amendment here. This specifically addresses the requirements for electric and electromagnetic locks and third-party inspections that will be inspecting these types of e-locks. This amendment was created with our occupancy group to allow for special inspections on these types of systems. And this amendment coincides with our other e-lock amendments that were covered, I think, in Chapter 10. So moving on, 2308.2.4, ultimate wind speed. New location and layout to these code provisions added by ICC and include changes to the minimum wind speed design. The City of Houston Amendment continues to reference prescriptive provisions for Houston Appendix K for the required hurricane clips. And reasoning justification is to reference the updated Appendix K for wind speeds exceeding certain criteria. All right, we'll move on To the building services parts, chapter 27 through 24. We don't have any amendments for chapter 27. In chapter 29, we do have amendments to table 2902.1, which is the minimum required plumbing fixtures table. There have been some slight modifications to this table that are mainly, it's probably hard for y'all to see. I'll zoom in a little bit. There's really not many changes in the base table that's new. Most of the changes that we have that will be new for this table are going to be located down here in the footnotes. Let's go back up here and read exactly what that said. And we can go back down and look. So modified City of Houston amendment by deleting previous footnote I. Minor updates occurred from the 2012 to the 2015 base code. Amendment I deleted due to lack of justification to eliminate minimum requirements for providing potable water for employees and visitors occupying existing buildings. It doesn't say anything about these two. I know these are two new City of Houston amendments. Actually, I wasn't there and actually, we actually should touch on this. So there has been a change. It's not notated here. I thought we had gotten this changed over. But if you look at footnote, which is now footnote G in the 2015 Houston amendments, previously it was footnote I in the 2012 amendments. We slightly wordsmithed this sentence to basically say buildings where water is served from bottled water coolers and has an occupant load less than 30. Previously, it said bottled water coolers or has an occupant load less of 30. This change was put forth, and I want to address this because I'm sure there's probably some questions about this, but this change was put forth. On by our plumbing departments here, both inspections and plan review. The intent behind this change was, let me see, I gotta pull up real quick. Was recommended by our plan review department. So the footnote was originally based on provisions in the UPC section 415 and IPC section 410 that exempts drinking fountains and certain occupancy conditions. The intent of the previous amendment, the way it was worded previously, was never to exempt larger occupancies and structures from the drinking fountain requirements of the code. Instead, it was intended for small office settings or similar occupancies with an occupant load of 30 or less. Because of the somewhat open-ended wording of the previous amendment, there were high occupancy structures that were exempt from the drinking fountain requirements. So what plumbing department wanted to do was bring this more in line with the original intent of the amendment, which was to allow these smaller occupancies to not have to provide drinking fountains and let bottled water coolers be appropriate for that type of scenario. Now for moving on for H and I, for the purposes of establishing employee and public restrooms and plumbing fixture requirements, the design occupant load of a self-storage warehouse facility containing only normally unoccupied rental units provided with direct exterior access for dropping off and picking up storage of personal possessions shall be based on the design occupant load of the occupied office building serving that storage facility. The required employee and public restrooms provided at the office building shall be available to the public and all employees who utilize the on-site facilities. This is similar to our previous footnote J, and then same with I, similar to our previous footnote K. They've just slightly been reworked. For instance, footnotes K to I right here, we included 1 story as a designator for the warehouses and parking garages that would be exempt in these certain scenarios. Okay, I think that about covers that. We'll keep moving forward. So some changes, base code changes in 2902.3. We won't really cover these. We'll move on to our Houston amendments. So the previous amendment in 2902.3.4 for pay facilities was not carried forward. Although provisions of the model code are not changed, this is a change to the City of Houston building code. The minimum required public toilet facilities are always intended to be accessible and free to the public. There was no justification for us to continue our strike through of this provision, so we decided to move forward with base code. So 2902.7 fixture types, no real change to our Houston amendment here, renumbered to correlate to the changes in the base code, but technical code requirements are still the same. Okay, all right, moving on to chapter 30, elevators and conveying systems. So there's not going to be a whole lot that's changed. There's been a few changes in this chapter. A lot of this is going to be more or less the same. So hopefully we can make our way through this one pretty quickly. But the scope section 3001.1, no change to our Houston amendment here. We'll keep going forward. 3001.2, so there were minor editorial changes to our Houston amendment here, but these are to reference the ASCE 24. These are just updated some of the updated elevator standards that were updated a couple years, well, it's probably been a few years ago now at the state level. So no real change here to the technical code requirements in this section, but you will see a little bit of green because we're updating references. 3001.2.1, same scenario here. No change to our technical code requirements in this Houston amendment, but we have a lot of green because we're updating the elevator standards that have been adopted at the state. We got ASME A17.1, 17.3, A90, B20, ASME A18. You know, these are real tongue twisters. You try to rattle all these off, so we'll just keep moving forward. All right, 3001.4, change in use. Again, no real change to our technical code requirements here. We'll keep moving. So I know there's a lot of green right here, but no real change here. As I'm sure Howard's probably already covered in a couple of other chapters, we pulled all of our definitions that were typically at the beginning of different chapters and put them all in chapter 2 for convenience. So what you're seeing here is just the green is what that represents. Those definitions can now be defined in chapter 2. Let's see, 3002.3, no change to this Houston amendment for emergency signs. Right, 3002.9, we got plumbing and mechanical systems. The base code section was modified and updated by ICC, but our Houston amendment remains unchanged, which allows all elevator pits, which states all elevator pits shall be provided with a sump pump as per ASME 17.1. The sump pump shall be discharged to the sanitary sewer. No changes there. Okay. 3003.3, standardized firefighter service keys. No change to this Houston amendment. Okay, this is one probably everyone wants to hear about. We have the new Houston amendment in 3003.4 and 3003.4.1. This is our water sensor requirement that we put in. So this is a new Houston amendment to the 2015 codes that requires hoistway elevator sensors. Previously, only section 3009.1 number 6 of the building code required water sensors in the elevator pits of high-rise buildings. This section, which is new to the code and applies to all buildings with elevators that travel below grade or are in the flood zone and subject to flooding. This requirement is retroactive in nature and includes a compliance timeline that's located in 3003.4.1. So we'll get into this. 3003.4, each elevator hoistway and or each connected bank of elevator hoistways within a structure located within the 100 and 500-year floodplain and elevators located outside the floodplain where elevator cabs travel to floors below the grade level. So if you're in the floodplain, 100 or 500 year, or if you're outside the floodplain and you have an elevator cab that will travel to below grade level, you will need to include a water sensor installed in the hoistway below the landing of the lowest floor served by the elevator. The water sensor shall be installed to automatically override and limit the elevator controls to prevent the elevator and the elevator equipment from descending into flooded areas and limit the lowest level of the elevator cab travel to a designated floor approved by the fire code official until flooding has receded. The activation of the automatic water sensor override shall activate visual or audio notification to the building's management. Return to normal operation of the elevator control systems shall require a manual reset by a Texas licensed elevator contractor. This code provision shall be retroactive and applicable to all existing and annexed structures having elevators. 3003.4.1. So this is the compliance timeline section for the water sensors. So on or before December 31st, 2026, or within 5 years after the date of annexation of the building into the jurisdiction, after April 1st, 2022, which was the effective date of our 2015 amendments, each elevator hoistway and or bank of connected elevator hoistways shall be equipped with an emergency water sensor installed in accordance with 3003.4. Exception, this section shall not apply to existing elevators containing water sensors installed in the hoistway below the landing of the lowest floor levels served that automatically removes the elevator from service to a design floor level. I think that should be designated, but design floor level approved by the fire code official when the hoistway is flooded. These specific systems shall also require a manual reset to return to normal operation as specified in section 3003.4 of this code. So the amendment, both of these amendments were proposed by our department with elevators, Houston Fire Department, Triad, and members of the elevator community to provide much needed life safety protection during potential water flooding events, which everyone knows here in Houston, we're prone to flooding. So while this is retroactive and that might seem dire, this is needed for public safety. We don't want any more, deaths like we had during Harvey with the scenario with the elevator going into flooded waters. So this is just for protection, for safety, resiliency, and to help everyone. So keep moving forward. 3004, we have some base code changes to this section. We won't really dive too much into that. We'll get into our amendments here. No real change to any of the amendments on the screen we have right here. 3004.3 with vertical reciprocating conveyors, 3004.5 with escalator skirt deflector devices. Only change you see here is the green is renumbering to coincide with changes in the base code IBC. No change to our technical requirements through these sections. Okay, we got section 3005.2 venting. It was originally 3006.2 venting. No change to our Houston amendments. We did include this line right here in this section that states that ventilation or air conditioning systems must be compliant with the provisions of the construction code. That's our Houston construction code, all of the Houston adopted building codes. 3005.5.1, no change here to our Houston amendment except for some renumbering. No technical code change requirements. 3006. We have some changes here to the base code. Keep moving forward. Okay, section 3009, Houston Amendment for elevators for high-rise buildings. As you can see, we have no change to our Houston Amendment here. No changes to the technical code requirements. Same with 3010.1. Going through, no real changes through here. 3010.2 operating permits, no changes through here. 3010.22 annual operating permit, no changes to our Houston amendments. Okay, so here we have some changes to 3010.2.3 posting of permits. So our City of Houston amendment has been updated and modified to coincide with, I guess, some state law changes with elevator requirements. We need the, let's see, an operating permit for an elevator, platform, lift, automated people mover, or related equipment must be displayed in one of the following other areas. Inside the elevator car enclosure or platform lift, automated people mover, or related equipment passenger enclosure, not more than 7 feet or less than 3 feet above the finished car floor. Outside the elevator car enclosure or platform lift, or related equipment passenger enclosure in the main lobby within 10 feet of the call button, not more than 7 feet or less than 3 feet above the finished floor landing. And then 3, in a common area, lobby, or hallway location within the building in which the equipment is located, and that is accessible to the public without assistance or permission during all hours in which any equipment is in operation. And 3.2, identify by plaque mounted in the elevator car enclosure or passenger enclosure within 10 feet of the call button in the main elevator lobby, directing the public to the location where the permit is displayed. And then we have some lettering requirements. What posting shall be updated? Okay, we'll move on. So nothing you're really going to see that if you're submitting plans, this is stuff that we'll be dealing with out in the field more than likely with third-party inspections for elevators. See, 3010.231 escalators, looks like a similar situation, updated and modified to incorporate some of the state elevator law requirements on posting operating permits. Okay, moving on, 3010.2.4 through 7, we have no through 8. No real changes through here. Previous technical code requirements remaining the same. Okay, we have section 3010.3, approval of personnel hoists. I don't think there's really any major change to the technical code requirements here, but it looks like we are including reference to section 118 for the fee for a manufacturer's design permit. And let's see. Oh, yes. Yes, actually, I remember I believe we actually put a notice on our website about this, but personnel hoist, so a manufacturer, distributor, or agent who desires approval of a personnel hoist manufactured or distributed by him or his principal shall submit a properly completed application meeting the requirements of this section including a proof of licensure by the state of Texas. What that proof of licensure is just a state elevator contractor's license. Like I said, we should have, if you go to our Houston permitting website and go to the news tab and look, we should have a fairly recent news article about this that'll go into it a little bit more. But yes, for personnel hoist, now whenever you're going to get an approval of a personnel hoist, it's going to need to include proof of licensure by the state of Texas. So state elevator contractor license. Other than that, no changes. We'll move forward. 3010.3.2 inspections, 3010.3.3 penalties for violations. We have no changes here to our previous Houston amendments. Same with 3010.3.4 and 3010.3.5 and 3010.3.6. No changes through here for dealing with our man lifts, material hoist cage platform sizes, testing and inspection, section 3010.4. No changes throughout. Everything remains the same as it was from 2012. Okay. 3010.5 fees for tests and inspections, no change here. Actually, there's a little bit of a minor change. We actually give you the section number. Previously, it just referred to the city fee schedule. We should probably put that green. But no major change. Technical requirements still remain the same. Still have to go to the city fee schedule for the fees. Okay, 3010.6 unsafe conditions. Again, no change to this amendment. Keep moving forward. That wraps chapter 30. Okay, so it was kind of like I predicted. A lot remained the same in chapter 30. Only a few changes here and there, most minor. One not so much with the water sensors. So we'll move on to chapter 31 for special construction. All right, 3103.1.2. So there was some changes in this section that deal with temporary structures. So new text was added to address structural and fire separation provisions of the building code associated with the temporary tents historically regulated by HFD, the Houston Fire Department. It is that certain temporary tents were being erected that did not meet the minimum requirements of the Houston Building Code, where permit exemptions are permitted by Section 3103 and the Fire Code. And in all cases where a structure is exempt from permits, the applicable provisions of the building code always will still apply and shall be met. Just because it's an exempt from permit doesn't necessarily mean that you're exempt from the code requirements. So we put this amendment to clarify the intent behind this section and maintain conformity with our local policies here. So looking at the section, we strike the temporary structures. We strike that cover an area greater than 120 square feet, including connection areas or spaces with common means of egress or entrance that are used or intended to be used for the gathering of 10 or more persons. So the section now reads, temporary structures shall not be erected, operated, or maintained for any purpose without obtaining approval and where tongue-tied, and where required a building permit from the building official. Temporary building shall be compliant with the applicable code provisions and be completely removed before 180 days after installation or upon the expiration of the time limit stated in the permit. Exception, a separate temporary structure permit is not required for a construction trailer or shed used for the construction of a structure when a permit has been obtained for the construction work. So again, these temporary buildings will need to comply with the code sections with their to get and get a building permit and be completely removed before 180 days after the installation or upon the expiration time limit that's stated in the permit. This is continued right here, 3103.5 for use period. The aggregate time associated with use or existence of a temporary structures, including but not limited to tents or air-supported, air-inflated, or tensioned membrane structures, shall not be or extend for a period of more than 179 days within a 12-month period on a single premises. Buildings complying with this code for the intended use and permitted as a permanent structure are exempt. And again, this new section added to address the allotted time for these temporary structures. We've had repeated violations for time limits associated with these temporary structures. So this amendment was coordinated with the Houston Fire Department and put in to help regulate these temporary structures a little more. Okay, 3104.4, we reserve this section, no change here. We'll go into 3109.1. Yes, so this is the reference to the spa swimming pool code. Previously, we had amended it to reference the Chapter 757 of the Texas Health and Safety Code. This past legislative cycle, the state legislature adopted the 2018 swimming pool and spa code at the minimum state level. So that's what this is going to be referring to, which I'm not sure why that doesn't specifically reference the 2018 here. So we have section 3112, driveway, sidewalks, parking lots. We included bus pads and landings. That is a new part of the Houston Amendment that's been updated and modified. This section establishes the minimum regulations governing the design and construction of driveways, sidewalks, parking lots, bus pads, landings, alleys, and paving as required by this code and the IDM in the city code. The most restrictive provision of the applicable code and ordinances shall prevail. So we have a little bit of new wording in here. Like I said previously, we included bus pads and landings to coincide with the other requirements for driveways, sidewalks, etc. We have a new reference to the IDM, and then again, that last sentence is new. That's just stating that if there's going to be a conflict, the most restrictive will always govern. So moving on, 3112.2, definitions. We've already covered this. All these definitions should remain the same. There should be no technical code requirement changes in these. It's just all these are going to now be located in Chapter 2. Okay, we have section 3112.3, paving on private property. No real change throughout this section. We do have a updated reference in 3112.3.2 in paving. Same with 3112.3.3. No real changes through here. Looks like we included, we corrected the name. We are no longer Public Works and Engineering. We are Houston Public Works. 3112.4, work located in the jurisdiction's right of way. No major updates to the code requirements here. Looks like we have some minor wordsmithing. Adding Houston Public Works, media openings, median. That's probably meant to be median. I'll have to make a note of that. Section 3112. Okay, but no real changes through here. 7, all proposed driveways, sidewalks, and the existing right-of-way conditions for a minimum 15. No change, we just went from word to number there. Okay. 3112.4.3, 0.4.5. So no change through here, no major changes through here. Technical code requirements are going to remain the same. We have some slight wordsmithing here and there, including IDM references. 3112.4.5, standards for design construction. So we have some new updated IDM drawings and references to these. These will be located at the back of this section further down. So we'll see those in a bit, but that's just going to be referencing these 3 new, 3 new drawings or updated drawings for design and construction. Okay, looking through here, 3112.4.6 through 10. It looks like we have same as the above, no real major changes throughout. Minor wordsmithing, 4.7 street curb. The permit applicant shall submit. And yeah, that's just some slight wordsmithing. No real change to any technical requirements through here. 3112.4.12, driveway approaches prohibited. We do have a minor update and includes an additional item, number 9, that addresses alley driveways and HFD access requirements. So any alley where the proposed driveway approach provides the primary access to any building or structure where required fire department access as specified by the fire code is not provided. So driveway approaches are prohibited within any of the following areas. Any alley where the proposed driveway approach provides the primary access for fire department access. 3112.5, off-street parking, no changes here. And 3112.6, drainage. 3112.7, we have a new Houston amendment that was included for bus pads and landings. So it talks about when a right-of-way contains a bus stop, the engineer shall design the bus pad and landing to integrate with the sidewalk in accordance with Chapter 10, Section 10.06.H, Item 12 of the IDM. This is just pulled straight from some language to reference the IDM for these bus pads and landings, which are now being regulated by them. All right, coming down, we have the aforementioned IDM drawings that we talked about, these 3 right here. You can find these in the amendments. They'll be at the back of that chapter in our Houston amendments attached. We won't spend a lot of time going over these. I'm not sure I could tell you what they said even if I tried, so. Let's see, chapter 32. So 3202.11. No real changes through here. A lot of this stuff is going to be the same as the previous chapter. We're dealing with IDM stuff. There's not going to be too much that has changed. Most of the technical requirements should be remaining the same. Let's see, not really seeing anything to point out. 3202.3.3, entrance type canopies. We do have some slight wordsmithing in here. Lowest part of any fringe or material. That's just talking about materials. That includes that. No real changes through here. That was a quick chapter. We'll move on. Chapter 33, safeguards during construction. So we have a new Houston Amendment in 3301.1 scope. We include a reference to NFPA 241. So the provisions of the chapter shall govern safety during construction and the protection of adjacent public and private properties, and shall be in accordance with NFPA 241. The amendment added that reference to NFPA 241, which is the safeguarding construction, alteration, and demolition operations standard. This standard that provides more safety during the construction process. 3302.2, no change to the technical requirements here. Slight wordsmith on the title of the section. Went from construction or demolishing privileges to a deconstruction or material removal, but no real change. Going down, 3303.8, no change here. 3304.1.5, no real change here. We've just included the metric measurements to be more in line with how the base code operates. Let's see. 3304.1.7, public property. We have updated to include our correct name, Houston Public Works. 3304.2, no, let's see. So no change to our technical requirements in this section, but we do have a minor editorial change. Any such condition shall be promptly abated and protected by filling in by providing code compliant drainage. So yeah, some slight wordsmithing there, but more or less the same. You're still having to provide drainage. Okay, no real change in 3307.1 for required protection. 3311.4, temporary standpipes. We have a minor editorial change here, pounds per square inch. Pressure standpipe, but no real technical code changes. Okay, section 33.3314, access for firefighting and EMS operations. So this is a new amendment that we added to the 2015 code that clarifies the extent of required emergency vehicle access roads to conduct emergency EMS rescues and firefighting operations when needed. The section reads, approved vehicle access for firefighting and emergency medical service shall be provided to all construction or demolition sites. Vehicle access shall be provided to within 100 feet or 30,480 millimeters of temporary or permanent fire department connections. Vehicle access shall be provided by either temporary or permanent roads capable of supporting vehicle loading as required by section D102 of the fire code under all weather conditions up to the foundation of every structure on the site prior to the start of any vertical construction. Vehicles access shall be maintained until permanent fire apparatus access roads are available. So recent construction, fire, and emergency rescue events identified needed guidance and clarity in the code to ensure appropriate emergency vehicle access is provided to all construction sites for life and fire safety, rescues, and firefighting operations where time is a critical factor. Amendment needed to ensure fire and life safety. And that wraps chapter 33. Okay, moving right along. 11 o'clock. Might need to pick it up just a little bit. So, okay, chapter 34. We should be able to go through this one pretty quick. So, chapter 34 used to be the existing building chapter. This section has been essentially done away with in this, or this chapter has been done away with as Houston has now adopted the 2015 existing building code. So a lot of what we're going to see through here, some of it was carried forward if it was needed, but a lot of this stuff that we have in this chapter is base code stuff in the existing building code. So any pertinent City of Houston amendments that were needed for any type of existing building remodels, construction, anything otherwise, we did include that in the existing building code, which I believe we'll be doing a class over as well. But anything else, like I said, most of this stuff is essentially base code, existing building code that we're going to see through here. So we'll run through this pretty quickly. Most of this stuff, like I said, relocated, amendment not carried forward. Let's see. Okay, so yes, change of occupancy, that's one thing. Yeah, hold on. Let me double check. Yeah, I believe this is probably the only thing I'd like to point out is the change of occupancy. That is section 407 in the existing building code. So that's where you'll go for any type of change of occupancy. Other than that, I'm really not seeing anything that's going to be very important to point out. We've got flood hazard stuff, historical building stuff. Most of the stuff is going to be in our existing building code. All right, we have the reference standards. We did update a few of the reference standards. The reference standards have been updated to include the most up-to-date ASHRAE 170 to provide provisions for ventilation of healthcare facilities. So we have ASHRAE 170 right here. That says 2008. I believe that is supposed to be the 2018. I'll need to check our amendments and make sure that that is correct. In fact, we'll do that right now because I think I have that pulled up. No, it is 2008. Okay. I've been looking at too many standards recently, forgive me. Okay, so ASTM, we have a few that were updated. E90 was updated to, I believe, the 2016. N105, no, that's not right. That's not right. That's the section number. And then NFPA 241 is a new standard that we included. We just talked about it, the safeguard for construction, alteration, demolition. Then we have our reference to our electrical code, which is now the 2020 NEC, NFPA 70 National Electrical Code. Okay, we'll go to chapter 46 and 62. These are our Houston sign code. For chapter 46, there's no change here. It's just referring you over to our sign code. We have chapter 62, which is our Lake Houston structures. Don't believe there's going to be a lot of major changes through here. Some minor editorial wordsmithing changes. Let's see, 6201. Yeah, some minor editorial changes. We have the building official shall inspect all pier, bulkhead, and jetty sites before permit is issued. Additionally, the building official may require a final inspection of the said sites. So slightly updated compared to previous amendment, but more or less technical code requirements are remaining the same. No changes in existing structures, 6201.2, no changes in 6201.3 for our definitions. We still have all the same 5 definitions for this chapter. They're just located in chapter 2. Okay, pier construction, 6202.1. We include the metric measurements in the beginning. We also have a clarifying sentence at the end in green to clarify that piers may not isolate areas of the lake from access from the lake. No pier shall protrude into a body of water, turn, and then return back to the shore of any property. Violations of this section shall be subject to penalties as prescribed in section 114.1. Says this was required to maintain conformity with local policies. So this must be something in our Lake Houston ordinance that forbids that type of pier. Let's see, moving on, 6202.1.2 through 0.6. No changes to our Houston amendments through here. No changes to 6202.1.7 plumbing. 6202.1.8, a pier constructed of alternate materials when approved by the building official. So we added that little signifier, when approved by the building official in accordance with section 104.11. So no major change there. That's just some wordsmithing for the alternate methods section. Sorry about any background noise you are picking up. I sit next to some very loud electrical inspectors. 6202 and 6203.1 looks like we're no major changes through here. Again, we've got some in the metric measurements included. No other major changes to our Houston amendments through these sections. Same here. Minor editorial changes, just adding in our metric measurements to coincide and try and match with the ICC building code and how they lay everything out. We do have a line here. 3 horizontal members are required for piles measuring more than 5 feet. Previously, 3 horizontal members are required for piles over 5 feet. So again, slight wordsmithing, no technical changes to our amendments here. Okay, looking through here, more of the same. No changes. We've just got some minor editorial stuff, putting in metric measurements, acceptable to the building official. If anchors are used, they must be an approved type. If anchors are used, they must be an approved type, acceptable, approved by the building official. So no real changes here, everyone. Okay, 6205 jetty construction. Minor editorial changes, but again, no real changes here. We're not specifically prohibited by the city code. Yeah, I mean, basic stuff here. Okay. All right, we'll move on into our appendices. So first one, we have Appendix F, rodent proofing. So this is a new appendix for us. We adopted this appendix to provide some minimum requirements for protection from rodents. It's being adopted to give these guidelines and provisions on adequate rodent proofing. If you want more on what exactly is details, we can, let's see, just look that up. But this just basically says that that this appendix is mandatory. Let's see. I think I have to get the base code pulled up. We have a little bit of time I think we can shed, so we'll look up Appendix F and see if there's anything noteworthy before we move on to talking about Appendix J. Get it pulled up. Here we go. Yeah, one pager here. Everyone should be able to see this. So nothing major here. It just gives some opening requirements. F101.5. You have seal requirements. I'm sure they have. Let's see. Gives you requirements for wood construction. exposed, fastened, grade floors. So nothing in here noteworthy. So we can move on. Nothing noteworthy. So Appendix J, excavation and grading. This was originally Appendix E. It's been migrated over to Appendix J. Shouldn't be too many major changes through here, but we'll take a look at it. So we got J101.1 scope. New amendment providing administrative procedures for grading construction. I think these just coincide with what we have in the IDM, but provisions of this chapter, or sorry, provisions of this appendix apply to grading, excavation, and earthwork construction, including fills and embankments, and establish the administrative procedures for issue of permits and provide for approval of plans and inspection of grading construction. So some boilerplate administrative provisions here. J101, 2 flood hazards. Of course, we're going to strike this, refer to chapter 19 and the IDM. J102.1, definitions. Grade rough. So yeah, engineered. So no real changes through here. All the amendments, like we've talked about previously, will be located in Chapter 2. These definitions, grade, rough, are the same. Nothing's changed here, but they'll be located different in Chapter 2. Apologies. Okay, J1032, exemptions. A grading permit shall not be required for the following work if the work meets the definition of regular grading. And then we have the below. So base code has been updated to include previous 2012 Appendix E requirements for permits. OCE wants these items deleted, the yellow strike throughs, and a permit required for all grading and fill, with a separate permit required for cleaning and grubbing. Section E 103.2 of the 2012 is now J103.2. Yeah, OCE. So yeah, required for all grading, any grading and fill, with a separate permit for required for clearing and grubbing. Okay, we have J103.3, state and federal requirements, no changes through here. J104.1, permits required, no real changes through here. It looks a little differently. We have the editorial note reserving, but the technical requirements and how this section will work remains the same. J104.11, no changes here. We have included a reference to section 118 for our city fee schedule. Moving down, J104.12 and J104.2, no changes. J104.3. So looks like we took out state of Texas and just says Texas professional engineer. No real changes. Texas professional engineer here too as well. J104.4, no real changes. Okay. Some slight wordsmithing here. The proposed grading shall at minimum be included by reference in the engineered grading plans. I'm not sure why that's green. That looks basically the same. Okay, updated reference in J104.6. No real changes there. Same with J104.7. We have updated reference. No major changes through here. J104.8, J104.9. Okay. I'm sure y'all are probably tired of hearing me saying no real changes, but that's more or less what's going on. We've got no real changes. Just some minor editorial things here. This appendix, minor editorial. No major changes. Some more wordsmithing in here. We're specifying Texas professional engineer shall provide a special inspection report to the field inspector that states, to the best of their knowledge, that the work in the area of responsibility was done in accordance with the final approved grading plan. Same with below. It's just minor wordsmithing. No real changes to our technical requirements here. So we have a base code update here in J106.1. It's been updated to limit slope. Our previous Houston amendment changed to include soils and engineering report. So we keep that Houston amendment, no real change there, but there looks like a slight limit and slope. 1 and 2. No, it says the same thing. We'll move forward. Okay, J1071. Service preparation, J1072, fill material, no changes through here. J1076, maximum slope. New amendment providing administrative procedures for maximum slope on fills. Amendment needed to ensure conformity with our local policies. So we've amend this section to state that fill slopes steeper than 1 vertical unit and 2 units horizontal, 50% slope, shall be justified by an approved soils engineering report. So new amendment, you'll need an approved soils engineering report for fill slopes steeper than 50% slope. Okay, J1084, modification of slope location, no changes. No changes through here. All right, I think that's going to wrap up chapter or Appendix J. Move on to Appendix K for conventional light frame wood construction in high wind areas. I know there's not going to be really any major changes through here. We'll roll through this relatively quickly. Most of this stuff's going to be staying the same in this appendix. I don't even think we really wordsmith this one that much. We got K105 general for elevated foundation. When approved, elevated foundation supporting not more than 1 story and meeting the provisions of this section may be used. The building official shall require a foundation investigation prior to authorizing the final approval of such work. So previously stated a foundation investigation may be required. We made a change that states that the building official will require a foundation investigation prior to authorizing a final approval. K105.3 wood piles, slight wordsmithing, but the technical code requirements are remaining the same. Instead of saying previously it said 8-inch square piles, now it says 8-inch round piles. No real changes. That wraps up Appendix K. We can move to Appendix L. So Appendix L, previously in the 2012 amendments, was our life safety requirements for existing buildings. This appendix was removed from the building code and migrated and adapted for the existing building code. So this appendix is now located in Appendix D of the 2015 Houston existing building code amendments, which you can find all on our website. And if anybody has issues navigating our website or finding anything on our website, just feel free to reach out. Sometimes it's not always the most user-friendly, and we have a lot of codes. We have a lot of we put up our comparison docs, our codes, LSBs, code words. I mean, there's a plethora of information on our website, and unless you know exactly where to go, sometimes it can be confusing. So if anyone has any issues accessing any of our amendments on our Houston permitting website, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to assist you. But again, Appendix L is now Appendix D in the existing building code. don't believe it changed that much. Slight adaptation for it to be in the new code, but the thing with this previous Houston amendment for Appendix L was these requirements that you see here, right here on the left in green, L101, L102. Most of these actually came out of the 2012 existing building code. We actually used that code to sort of base these amendments off of and create this appendix. So it wasn't really too much of a stretch to have it move to the existing building code and be adapted so well. But all these requirements, yes, we will be finding these in the existing building code, which is a class for another day. So we will move on to Appendix M. Let's see here. Minimum provisions for change of occupancy. Give me 1 second. So, sorry. So this previous Houston amendment for Appendix M was omitted. It's no longer needed since change of occupancy is now a part of Chapter 10 of the existing building code. So all these requirements, again, and same with this appendix, similar to Appendix L in the 2012 Houston amendments. A lot of these provisions are based off of what's in the existing building code. So we'll just keep moving forward through here. No real reason to check out Appendix M. So now we are on Appendix N, sound attenuation, airport sound attenuation requirements. So for this chapter, there shouldn't have been too many major changes. Wordsmithing here or there, right here in section N 101.1 purpose, we state that the scope or the purpose is to achieve an interior sound level of 45 dBA or less. The or less is new, but it doesn't necessarily change the technical requirements of the section. In 102, definitions. Once again, you can find our definitions in Chapter 2. That's where they'll be located. Should be no change to the definition. Section 103, walls. No changes through here except for some minor changes to numbers. Everything was being renumbered, but other than that, no major changes throughout this appendix, which takes us to Appendix R, reuse of materials. Okay. And again, I think this is going to be another one where we don't have too many changes, minor stuff. We're referring you to Chapter 2 here for the definitions. Slight wordsmith in R101.2. R103, no changes here and no changes. Sorry, excuse me. No real changes here in table R103.1. And look at there, we have officially wrapped up. That is the end of Appendix R and end of this presentation. So it looks like I was able to wrap us up a little quicker, even quicker than I thought. So if anyone has any questions, we'll open it up for a little while for questions. I can tell you now, I probably won't be as quick or efficient with answering questions as Howard, but I can promise you that I will eventually get your answer and I will eventually get it to you. But if y'all have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat or email later on. If you had a question and you forgot and you think of it later, feel free to email me. Kind of go through here and see if there's anything else that might stick out. See a couple people typing over here. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Gretchen. Appreciate it. Is this document available, Jenny? Yes, it is. We have this We have this on our website. The comparison, all of the Houston comparison docs, these documents that you see, we have these for every one of the codes. They are on our Houston permitting website. This one specifically, and how it's there's been some updates to, I think, the ones that we have on our website. So if you go to our website and you pull up the building code one, it might not look exactly like this, but it will. We're going to make sure that those get updated. So if you would like a copy of this, just shoot your email in the chat, and then once I wrap up everything, I'll send an email out to everyone who puts their email in the chat and can send them this document, um, um, the PDF version of this document. Um, um, but yeah, all these are on our website, and then like I said, some of them might not be the more up-to-date ones because we've done a lot of work since they've been put up on our website. But we will get those updated at some point, very quickly, especially now that we have these more or less finalized and we're doing the classes now. We hopefully be able to get them updated here pretty quickly. Okay, thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Jenny. Got your email. Scott, Ronald, I have y'all's email. I'll go through, send everything later. Christina, thank you, Christina. Appreciate it, everyone. Gretchen, I have your email too. I got you down. Any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or email me. We'll give it a few more minutes. We'll take it to 11:30 at least. That way we'll do 1.5 hours. Let's see. Okay. Anna, I have your email. Stephen, I have your email, sir. Mike, yes, sir. Got your email. Make sure I get everyone. Get a copy of this sent out after the class is wrapped. I have a question. We used a project under 2015 AMOC. AMOC. I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm aware of that acronym. AMOC. I have to Google that one. Oh, thank you. 2015. We have a project under 2015 before it was adopted. Can we use some of these amendments? Okay, so are you saying that you got an alternate method to use the 2015 code before the 2015 code was adopted? If that's the case, I don't believe you'll be able to, I'll check with Howard. Oh, where's my pen? Can put you down, Jenny. Jenny. I'll check with Howard, or I'll also check with Blasco, who Michael Blasco. I'm sure you're aware of him. He's the one who primarily does our alternate methods now. But I think that in the situation where you do an alternate method where you jump ahead to a new code, in this case we were under the 2012, you went to the 2015. I think, and you can refer to your letter. I would refer to your letter as well because it might say something in that. But more or less, you have to essentially stick with the code, the base code, and comply with it in its entirety. So us coming in with amendments after, I'm not sure. I think it would be a case where you're going to have to comply with what was designated at that time with your alternate method. But let me check with Blasco, and I'll check with Howard too, as soon as he's back in the office, and I'll try and get you an answer to that. And then, like I said, also look at your alternate method approval letter. It might say, there might be a line in there to that effect, that essentially there should be that will essentially say that you have to comply with the entirety of the 2015 code. But yeah, I'll double check on that for you, Jenny. Oh, yeah, AMOC to 2015 codes. Yep, no problem. Okay. Quetta, I've got your email. Okay. I think I've got everyone's down for emails. All right, any more questions, comments, or concerns? Feel free to throw them in chat. Let's see. Yeah, Christina. So yes, the recordings will be put up online at some point. I'm not sure exactly when. I know we try and get everything up as on our website as quickly as we can, and thankfully, Katie is really good at helping us out and getting things on there pretty quick. So hopefully they'll be up pretty quick. So just keep if you're not already, and this goes for everyone, if you're not already signed up for the newsletter that we have at the Houston Permitting Center, I would highly suggest that you do that. That way, anything that comes out, you'll get a notice. If you just go to if you just Google Houston Permitting Center News, it'll be one of the first links that pops up, and it'll take on that page there'll be a link that you can go, and then also that particular page, the HPC News and Events page, just kind of have that pulled up, and refresh ever so often and look, because you'll see things that get updated there too. And so when we do get the recordings put online, we'll put a newsletter out. We'll put it in the newsletter. We'll put it on the little news events page. It'll get its own little article and little item. So we try and make sure everyone's aware that we're getting things put out. But again, sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already. We're really trying to push that and make sure that if everything that we do for code development or these trainings or anything like that, we're keeping everyone informed so that they can have access to it and know where it's located at. And I'll double check. I feel like, and this is another good word of advice too. If you want to find anything with our amendments or anything like that, one of the best ways to find our page specifically for our code development page is just type into Google Houston Code Development. The first link that comes up is our code development page. You can go down, go to the codes, um, and see have access to everything. Like I said, we have our code words up here. We have our comparison files here. Um, you can go to our current code amendments. Let's see. So if we go to trainings, I'm trying to see. So I don't think we have them up yet, but we'll get them. No, because we have the IRC ones too that we did. So we need to get those up, and these two building code ones up. So as soon as we get those up, we'll make sure to, like I said, we'll put the newsletter out. We'll put it on the web page. Um, just awesome. Yes, the news page is extreme. I honestly, y'all probably saw when I pulled that up. I have two pages that I have opened up all the time: ICC and our news and event page, because we obviously look right there. We had network issues this morning. Project Docs and ILMS were down. It was a whole thing. So this page, just kind of keep it up. If it's on your phone, just have it one of the tabs that's open up on your phone and you refresh, or same with on your computer and you just refresh it every once in a while, because anything that comes in will be there, and will be the quickest way to find it. Because as you saw maybe a second ago, me going to our code development page, sometimes some of our codes or our files or whatever can be buried beyond a link to another link or whatever have you. So when things get posted that way, it's just a little bit quicker. All right. Well, we are approaching 11:30, so unless anyone else has any more questions, then we will wrap up. I appreciate everyone tuning in today. I appreciate all the thanks in the chat just now. I'll make sure to get the email with the file out to everyone just as soon as we get off of here. And if like I said, if y'all have any more questions or anything, feel free to email me. Appreciate it, everyone, and y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day.